Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Let's discuss Gary Neville. If you haven't seen it on the overlap, Gary Neville talked about the Arsenal decision and more importantly, the fact that Micheal Oliver has been taken off the Manchester City versus Arsenal game this weekend. He claims that he believes that that is a disgraceful decision because of the fact that it kind of questions Micheal Oliver's integrity. And also, he believes that Micheal Oliver is the best referee, firstly, in the world, which we'll discuss in a second, but that it means that basically the referee is being sort of questioned in terms of his validity, in terms of his quality of his refereeing decisions. And he does not believe, from the overlap at least, that emotional decisions come into refereeing displays. Now, whether the emotional unconscious bias is there or not, that is for you and me and these pundits to decide. Personally, I do think emotional integrity is questioned with referees. The fact that 74% of referees are from the north of England, I think that will have an unconscious bias or a conscious bias in their head against certain teams. I also think from an emotional standpoint, it does make sense for him to be taken out of the spotlight to protect both Micheal Oliver himself, but also football. Because what if a bad decision went again against Arsenal, cost Arsenal points, and then he would probably have to face performance injunctions, such as maybe even being sacked. So I think taking him out of the limelight does protect him from that. Now, I also think Gary Neville is a bit blinkered. I can't lie. He's a pundit who, for whatever reason, when on the overlap, always seems to sit on the wrong side of the fence. So when Roy Keane, as much as he likes to wind people up, usually there's some reason within his opinions. With regards to Jamie Carragher, if he's there, or Wayne Rooney or Ian Wright, they always seem to get on the correct side of the debate. So, for example, case in point, the Nicholas Jova comments. I think that Gary Neville went above and beyond to say he's doubling down that that Nicholas Jova is the most annoying man in football, purely because a set piece coach, when there's a set piece, comes and gives instructions to the team on the sideline. Sky, if anyone, are the people that you should point the fingers at there for literally panning in on the set piece coach. It's not his fault that the TV coverage is putting the cameras on him. He's doing his job. He's giving instructions. He's a coach who genuinely doesn't even speak in the media, ever. So that action cannot make you the most annoying man in football. Then it later came out that obviously Gary Neville was the set-piece coach for England and put Harry Kane on corners. So there seems to be some unconscious or conscious bias there. Now, obviously, Gary Neville has said many a time, Arsenal were the team that he hated the most when he was playing because he went up against them. So obviously there's going to be some bias there for Gary Neville. My issue with this is that he is going on the side of the referee and completely going against anything that's logical. So Ian Wright makes a great point in the fact that he says that Oliver has never sent off a Manchester City player in a game. And they went on to show the picture, the point of he refereed the game where Doku had the high foot on McAllister, and that wasn't given as a red. So Gary Neville tried to back that point off by saying, well, there hasn't been a red card challenge City have had because of the fact they control games. But that's absolute baloney. So another example, other than the McAllister one, is last year. 2 years ago, Mateo Kovacic made two arguably red card challenges in the Arsenal versus Manchester City game. One whereby he went through the back of Ødegaard, and that was not enough to be given as a double yellow offence or even a red card. So there is history with Micheal Oliver and Manchester City, especially. He has been paid by City's owners in the past as well. So I feel that Gary Neville is either living in an ideal world where he wants to live in, where everything's fine and he looks at everyone being the top professionals they are, and he doesn't believe in the likes of corruption. He doesn't think that people can hold himself to those standards. So, for example, because Gary Neville was such a hard-working player, he spoke so many times about his professionalism in terms of preparation for the game. He encompassed the game when he played. And you can sort of see the translation for that in his business sense. With the jobs he does, he's very intense. He's an intense personality, but he has an innate drive to do the right thing and work hard. Now, I don't think even it will compute in his brain if someone wasn't holding themselves to the same standards as that. So that is why I naturally don't think he probably understands that these referees could have unconscious bias. These could have corruption, because in his head, he just thinks you do your job to the best of your ability. I think it's a very workings man type look on life. Whereas people like Wayne Rooney, he came in and said, yeah, I was quite emotional. I'm an emotional guy. I got quite emotional, so I couldn't play against Everton a few times. Or Ian Wright, who is very much an emotional type person, which is nothing wrong with. He can more understand the morality of Micheal Oliver being into the Manchester City game, and the fact that these bad decisions he consistently makes is going to start weighing down on Micheal Oliver, both in terms of his reputation, but also in terms of his mentality towards Arsenal and other decisions. And it could also start ruining the reputation of the PGML. They're under a lot of heat right now, so maybe it's a good case to pull Micheal Oliver back and get a few decisions right for a little bit, just to sort of get that trust back within the full ethos of refereeing within England. Now, that goes against everything that Gary Neville said. Obviously, he thought it was disgraceful, but I can only think that he looks at it from such a working man's side that he doesn't even contemplate the fact that Oliver meant to maybe make the mistake or be the centrepiece of refereeing. I personally feel he might be incompetent, but I also think there's a bit about him and referees within this country that like to be the centre of attention. And I feel that Howard Webb is driving that within the PGML. But obviously I don't think that would even be contemplated in Gary Neville's head. It wouldn't even be a past thought. So I think that is where he's coming from. And that is why I personally believe Gary Neville to be wrong in this instance. But equally, when you look at it from... Everyone comes from different walks of life. So when you look at it from different people's perspective of where are they coming from with their opinions, I can understand why he wants to believe that Micheal Oliver could perform to the best of his ability against City. I also think it's a case of, within the PGMOL, they can't afford to take that chance and get one wrong. They have to get him out of the spotlight so then they can at least get some heat off them, because otherwise fans, clubs could sue again, of like Wolves, and it could end up being the end of the PGMOL. So that's my thoughts. I hope you have enjoyed. Just a random rant about football. On another note, John Duran is signing for Al Ittihad. Is that the one that Ronaldo's at? For £77 million. I think that is a phenomenal bit of business from them, and I think John Duran will do well there. I struggle to see how he gets back to Europe at a top club, because if you are going in the key stage of development between 21 and 24 to a minor league that's less competitive, you may lose that edge. I also think that for that amount of money, they're not going to want to sell for anywhere near until £50 million, and that's always going to be a gamble, getting a player who's been in Saudi for say 2-3 years for £50 million. So I do feel he's kind of washing his career away a little. If he stayed at Villa and continued this trajectory, you'd imagine like a Chelsea would take a punt on him in about a year's time. But that's up to the player. That's up to John Duran. So today we discussed obviously the refereeing for Micheal Oliver and Gary Neville's comments, and then we've secondly now discussed John Duran. So that's just today's football news really. Obviously there's going to be transfers going around. I'll try and keep you up to date on the shorts side of things. I did do a short yesterday on Ollie Watkins' bid from Arsenal for the Villa forward of just under £60 million that got rejected. Arsenal apparently going to go back in for it. It's not going to be a good look for Villa fans if they lose both their strikers in January. But we'll wait and see. They are looking at Matthias Tell. They've just brought in Daniel Malen, so I'd imagine they have prepared for it. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you are new. See you next time. Goodbye.